So, warmly welcome to you, mashallah, for day three. And today, our topics are the most important topics like excavation, one of the critical process in construction industry, and also in several industries like oil and gas or several other actually. Everywhere we have some sort of digging like trenches or making some confined spaces. And second topic we have CSC like confined space entry. How are we gonna identify hazards and what sort of controls we need to ensure before even we start the project or during the project and even after finishing the project. And same way we'll discuss another important topic, we call it H2s hydrogen sulfide gas. I call it one of the deadly monster, because it can kill within minutes. So it's a highly poisonous, extremely flammable, extremely poisonous gas, and I call it invisible enemy also because it's colorless. And also we will discuss about SCBA like supply, self-contained breathing apparatus, and why we need it actually, especially in the confined spaces. So our first topic is excavation. You can look at the right side, one picture, just an example. And now, since you are working in construction industry, look at those pictures, both pictures. What do you think? What hazards are there? Like, can you spot the hazards or?
If the up with tractor, I think should have this one down the wall, soil wall, not
Mhm.
maybe dangerous coming
Absolutely.
down like that.
So the walls can cave in, collapse in. If somebody is
Yeah,
working inside, it's all over because that's why several incidents are happened already and terrible fatalities are there. That is why this topic is so much critical to discuss, understand what kind of hazards gonna be there. And if you can remember, deeper than 1.2 meter, I repeat again, deeper than the depth of excavated trench or any area, any land you dig out, deeper than 1.2 meter or 4 feet must be considered as a confined space. And confined space, a place which is not designed for human occupancy. That means it's a red zone, it's a danger zone. So before even we jump in to perform any activity, especially in a confined space, surely we have to make sure to follow all the safety regulations, especially the permit system, confined space entry permit, and if we are performing hot work, again hot work permit. If we are performing some cold work, of course, cold work permit. And if we are having some sort of electrical work, and several companies they have electrical permits separately, even if within that confined space, if we have some rigging and lifting or working at height requirements, uh, working at height separate permit. Like in Saudi electricity, mostly they have 13 to 16 different type of permits, like process wise or activity wise, and just to make sure they have a very deep and productive control before something goes wrong, God forbid. And what hazards we can list up? The walls can cave in, the walls can collapse because no shoring, no benching, no shielding, nothing is there actually. And that is why it is important to be capable to identify how to identify hazards. Even yesterday, you remember we had a detailed exercise how to identify or spot the hazards, But now we are going to discuss topic wise, like excavation is one topic. And within excavated areas, like cave in, walls cave in, one hazard, then toxic fumes because we are playing with nature, we are playing with the land, the earth, we are digging it out. Underground cables could be there, hazardous pipelines can also be. That is why we truly need to find out some way, like maybe drawings, maybe metal detectors, maybe cable detectors, plenty of maybe hand digging also to know about any hazard inside. Even flooding could also be there. Okay. And most importantly, imagine if you are using untrained, uncertified team members to handle such kind of processes. So it could be another terrible hazard. And imagine if nearby you are using rigging and lifting activities and heavy equipments are coming nearby and no barricade is there. This is another catastrophic hazard, because you don't have control of line of fire actually. And I hope you remember we already discussed the terrible root causes or real root causes of accidents. And one of the root cause we agreed, which you mentioned, mashallah, not following safety rules and regulations is the number one cause of fatalities or accidents globally, even I would say, especially in high hazardous industries like in chemical industry, oil and gas, construction industry, and several other, including mining as well. So once we understood that there could be terrible hazards while performing excavation process, so now it's time to understand some of the controls. So let's try to list up first of all the hazards, because one by one, then we can find out what better controls should be there. Like either we will rely on engineering controls, or we have to go for some administrative controls, or PPs would be a better option, even though it's a last option. But look at some of the list, the types of excavation hazards, like lack of oxygen. Definitely, the persons can be unconscious because oxygen is life. I can live without food maybe for 1 week, without water maybe for 3 4 days, but without oxygen, even 2 minutes could be terrible, right? So oxygen is our first need. That is why we truly need to hire a person called authorized gas tester. Sometimes we don't realize that authorized gas tester is mandatory, because if you will not tell to the top management, they will not hire. If customer is not pushing you to hire an authorized gas tester, you will not hire, right? Because self realization is diminishing day by day, god forbid. But now, after the accidents, surely people are learning, the companies are learning. But still it's a reactive approach. Like once the person is died, now you are taking actions, while you have to be proactive. Before somebody is facing, god forbid, any accident, be active, have a proactive safety management system. Proactively identify all the hazards, do some risk assessments, have some joint site inspections, do some JSA, in other words, job safety analysis, or have some other typical hazard analysis as well. Involve some documentation, have some expert people on board, and make sure you are quite ready, to cope up any sort of situation, and make sure you have an emergency response plan also, like. And sometimes I say one of the most terrible activity is the rescue operations in a confined space. Like rescuing somebody from a confined space is not easy. Then another hazard is inhalation of toxic materials. Might be H2s is coming because it's a confined space, especially after 1.2 meter or 4 feet. And if H2s is above permissible exposure limits, it's a deadly monster and it can kill within seconds. And we will discuss in detail what is H2S and what type of controls gonna be there to keep us safe. Then fire hazard, the third one, another hazard. Excavation soil or equipment falling on workers. Moving machinery near the edge of the excavation can cause a collapse. Falling slips, trips, and fall, and also the accidental serving of underground utilities lines, like I discussed already. And you can look at the gentleman, how much he is very near to the equipment or excavator, So the first job is to identify, to recognize the possible hazards. And once you have this list, then only one job is there to control them proactively, Before, during, and after. I hope you remember every process I have three stages: before, during, and after. So, what safety regulations we need to follow before starting the excavation process, and during excavation, what safety regulations we have to respect, and once the job is done, then what rules we need to follow, especially relevant to safety. Okay.
Okay.
So now we can discuss some of the controls. And bear in mind, there are, according to some theories or OSHA or even from NIBOSH side, whenever we teach, NIBOSH IGC or PSM or some of the IADC courses or some of the NFPA, or even we teach some of the courses from HABC and certain other regulatory bodies or accredited bodies, but everyone talk about normally three stages like engineering, administrative, and PPs. But under engineering, either you eliminate or you isolate the hazard. You eliminate the hazard or you isolate. These two comes under engineering controls. And other controls we have administrative, like verification should be there, work permit system must be there, proper training, toolbox meetings, have some documentation, pre-excavation checklist, make sure the proper expert people are there, make some rules, nobody is have some standby man also, and make rules for them also, to not to let anyone to approach that area and crossing line of fire, make some rules for heavy equipments also, train your employees according to your administrative regulations. And why you are doing all this, you don't want to see anyone to be killed at your site, and one terrible accident can destroy the whole business also. But the problem is, business we can rebuild, but if a life is gone, it's gone forever. Like one Makkah incident, Bin Laden, I hope you remember.
Uh,
This tower
4
crane?
years ago,
Exactly.
5 years.
And I'm sure Bin Laden is still crying for business. If they have, if they have some projects, a very strong, terrible monitoring, I would say, from the the government side, even from other regulatory bodies, they will not let them to violate any sort of safety regulations. Now look at this picture, So, four important phases. First, either you eliminate hazards and have some control against risk, and implementing your precautions or excavation and trenches with pre-planning. Proactive planning is very much important. That is why excavation, like any job you are performing, there must be a job plan actually in our hand. How we are going to perform, who will do what equipment they're going to use, and how exactly they're going to do is like kind of SOP. We call it standard operating procedure. Then protective systems like either shoring, benching, sloping, shielding, according to the soil type. Also safety measures, make some administrative rules and make sure the PPs are there. And most important part is the monitoring, the inspections. And sometimes I say the regular monitoring, the continual monitoring or inspections, because human always are human. You never know when they'll be distracting from their job, like mentally they are at home, but physically they are on the job actually. and that is the critical time when accident can happen, because they are not focused. Sometimes I say all workers, like, you are not busy for 12 hours continuously. Might be out of 12 hours, your job is only 4 hours continuous. And those 4 hours, please be focused and don't ignore any safety regulations, because life matters. Like, your company can get new employees like this, but we have no other contingency plan, especially for our families. We are the only heroes, right? So that kind of self realization surely need to be published, and we have to make sure that everybody understands safety starts from me, safety starts from you. This is our necessity. It's kind of a blessing if the government is supporting us. It's another blessing if our top management is committed. They are supporting us, providing resources and making sure zero accident, zero harm to the environment, zero injuries, 0% near misses, etc. Zero first aid cases even. That's a blessing if they are supporting, like providing trainings, all resources, PPs, several kind of guidelines, and plenty of trainings in-house, even third-party trainings, just to make us competent and capable. Only our part is to follow the SOPs, to follow safety regulations, respect your safety rules and policies even. Then inshallah the chances of accident will go down. If everyone is working as a team and everyone is respecting safety regulations, the probability, the chances of accident will go down drastically. And that's how you build up the culture as well. When everybody understand I am the safety manager of my own area, the job is done. You don't need to worry about it. When the welder will think I am the safety manager of my area also. I'm not only a welder. I accept the ownership and I'm responsible for my safety and for my colleagues also, Work as a team. That's why in my previous lectures I mentioned janitor to general manager, everybody is responsible for safety. It's a teamwork. It's not like only the job of safety team members or officers or supervisors or managers, or even safety trainers. They can only support, right? That is why on a technical ground, we surely have to implement in a sequence all control measures if we truly want to avoid any sort of accident, because there are certain hazards associated with each process and activity which we already listed up, right? Okay, now look at this picture. He is very near to both edges, front and the right side also. That means the walls have more chances to collapse because it's a slopey surface, and on the other side you are digging also, creating vibration and thrilling to the earth and land and creating some terrible trembling vibration, and it's a heavy equipment. It's not a light equipment, by the way. It's not a lightweight equipment, it's a heavy equipment. That is why some rules are there, how far you have to park your heavy equipment. Like if depth is 20 feet, how far you have to park your heavy equipment? Quite straightforward. If depth is 20 feet, you need to park your heavy equipment 20 feet away. Otherwise, more chances to cave in and collapse and the walls. Otherwise, if you believe there is underground hazard or some others, so minimum 3 meter or 10 feet. But if it is backfilling or some other sort of equipment, maybe sometime, less than 3 meter can also be, like 2 meter sometime are acceptable, especially as per Saudi Aramco. But still, based on your risk assessment or job analysis. Now imagine if within this excavation nearby or within this excavation, if the depth is 1.2 meter or 4 feet, then it's a confined space also. So another SOP, confined space entry management, another SOP, standard operating procedure, need to be followed and implemented. That is why we need expert civil engineers and kind of people, including the operators, the equipment operators actually. Whoever is involved, we have to make sure he's competent enough, like is knowledgeable, technically sound, have some experience, education is there, and most importantly the common sense. Sometimes I say everybody have common sense, but very few they know how to use common sense actually. So use is important. Having common sense is quite common, by the way. But what if some are not using even the common sense? Like if I'm performing any activity, I just need to pause, stop, and think what can go wrong. Only one question. What can go wrong? Any risk, any hazards which can come on my way, while performing this activity or process. And you will find inshallah your mind will be supporting, since it's a common sense, right? That is why there is a slogan, safety is a common sense. But it's not beneficial if you are not using even your common sense.
Please, I have now a small question, please.
Yeah, please.
Like this picture, how many meter crane should be for? You say
Two
it's
criteria. Two criteria: minimum 3 meter, and if the depth is 20 feet, 20 feet away. So depth, and on the other side, the minimum. And if underground hazards are there, like underground cables, underground pipelines are there, then 3 meter is mandatory. You can't compromise.
yeah.
Otherwise, sometimes
يعني
2 meters are acceptable. But for
يعني
backfilling
must
or
في relation between the space between the crane wheel and the hole and the depth of hole.
yeah, so just make sure
يعني
it
for
is.
example this hole depth 3 meters example. تمام. Crane at this time 2 meters away. If
Yeah, 2 meters
the
away.
hole
Yes.
example if this hole for example 10 meters down or 5 meters like that percent في different percent.
No, no. Actually, there are two criteria. Either you are operating that excavator, or either you are parking. Two criteria. Operational, some requirements, and operating an equipment, like parking an equipment. Let's take an example one by one. If we are parking a heavy equipment near to an excavated area, okay, like at the near to the edge of the excavation, how far we have to park? How far we have to park heavy equipment near to, in line with the edge of the excavation? So in that scenario, two criteria. First is the depth. If depth is 10 feet, you park your heavy equipment 10 feet away. If it is 20 feet deep, 20 feet away. I'm talking about parking. I'm talking about parking, like you want to park heavy equipment. So keep heavy equipment away as per the depth. But if it is depth is not, like underground hazards are there or some other, so minimum 3 meter is mandatory. Minimum 3 meters. But if it is backfilling or some others, then sometimes 2 meter also acceptable. Okay. And if you are operating it, of course you have to follow as per your soil type. If soil type C is there, soil type A is there, soil type B is there, so accordingly you need to follow. And sometimes the regulations also vary area wise. Area wise, like if you are digging in Dammam in a desert area, and if you are digging in Abha, you know,
Oh,
so according to the soil type, but of course you need to create a safe zone, it's a hard to standardize for every sort of soil, but parking standards, that's we can define quite easily. And also benching, sloping, shielding, all standards can be benchmarked. Like if we are digging, let's take an example, less than 20 feet deep, and soil type C is there, and we are using sloping, okay, we are using sloping and soil type C is there, that means least stable, is kind of a sand, the upper layer of soil, which is not very powerful, right? Very weak one actually. So in that scenario, what would be the sloping angle? If you can remember, 34, 34 degree for soil type C. But who will decide it is soil type C or soil type B or soil type A, Here we required somebody who is capable how to identify what type of soil is there. That is why soil testing and plenty of geological reports are involved to understand that land particular. Before even we start, some environmental studies also sometimes important, before even you start your project. Even so, the government will not give permission if the land is not secure enough and not feasible to your business idea. They will not allow actually, because they know it's risky if you perform this activity beyond the standards actually. Now the same way, if soil type B is there, which is little bit stronger than C soil, then the sloping angle should be 45 degree. You see, the more stronger soil is there, accordingly the sloping standards you are applying for, Now if sloping the soil type A is there, which is more stronger than C and B, then the sloping angle should be 53 degree. Sloping angle should be 53 degree. And if you believe it's a solid rock, which is the strongest one, mostly we get at the bottom, of the soil for sure. And below that sometimes water is there, but still if rock is there, the sloping angle could be 90 degree. So I hope you got the point. According to the soil type, our plan should be there. That is why pre-excavation checklist, even pre-planning, that is why the word pre-planning is used, Accordingly, you set up all the policies, procedures according to the area, and make sure you get some help from the international standards and some of the local standards also. And sometimes your customer is also guiding you. Like if you're working with Saudi Electricity or Saudi Aramco, they also have area wise all their fixed standards, or safety regulations, which you surely have to follow. Okay. So according to soil type, you have to make sure your plan is solid, not the poor plan, God forbid. Now, what is your current practice? Like if you are operating an excavator, how far you keep it away from the trenches? Because you are digging out and continuously the depth is increasing.
20 feet.
Sorry?
20 feet?
No, 20 feet actually, that would be, again, it is feasible sometime to operate then, because if it is 20 feet away and you are operating
Oh,
an excavator, It is viable to work, or it's required, that's mean the selection of equipment according to our job nature is another critical factor, because ultimately you don't want that heavy equipment to create pressure on the edges of the excavation and to collapse in actually because of the pressure. And terribly, the 1 cubic meter of soil, 1 cubic meter of soil, how much weight could be there? Have you ever imagined? 1 cubic meter of soil, how much weight? If that collapses and a person is caught up, God forbid.
Maybe around 110
Sorry?
or like that.
Yeah?
Around 110, I think. Around 110.
1 ton?
1 meter, 1 meter cubic.
Yeah,
Around
1
110.
meter cubic, how much weight?
Around 110.
Can you
1,000 kg.
okay, I'm giving you some live assignment. Can you just search on Google, as per OSHA, 1 cubic meter of soil, how much weight is there? As per OSHA regulations. 1 cubic meter of soil, how much weight is there? Can you just Google up and let me see if you have the right figure from OSHA side, because I don't want to share, since we must be familiar how to search immediately. Because I will go to OSHA website also after some lecture, and then we'll see how OSHA can help us. Like if we study excavation standard of OSHA, of course everything will be mentioned there. But I'm talking about specifically 1 cubic meter of soil. How much weight is there? And take your 5 minute break also in between. Okay?
Uh, 1 meter.
Yes, 1 cubic meter of soil. And I'm talking about,
Around
since it's a
one
OSHA training, so I want you to search according to OSHA.
around 1,600 kg.
1600 kg. How many pounds actually?
Per pound. English, I don't know, but I know in metric standard. In metric standard, around 1,600 kg.
Okay.
Also,
I'm sharing one PDF file in the WhatsApp
I
group, and
I
it will help you always
think
related to soil. Okay?
also برضه depending on the raw in soil.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
different.
right. That's
يعني
why that's why I'm
not
sharing this file in PDF.
not not all are the same يعني. Depending on the density of the soil.
Absolutely right.
يعني
Absolutely right.
as you I found it coming to me in WhatsApp. For
Yeah.
example, you informed me small example in Dammam soil sand, not the same density in Abha.
Excellent. Excellent. So it depends again on soil type, but in average, how much?
Soil types. يعني if in Dammam,
Yeah.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe uh, 900, maybe in Dammam, the density
Excellent. Excellent.
of in Abha
Mm-hmm.
uh, have high humidity in the soil.
Excellent. Okay.
So I think the density may coming little up. In
Mm-hmm.
Mecca have rock stones يبقى maybe come up to 1,500 kg for 1 meter cubic. So I think depending on the soil type, if it's rock, sand, soil, like that.
Now, as per Saudi Aramco, can we find out 1 cubic meter of soil? What they are referring actually, as per Saudi Aramco. Because you are definitely right. It depends on the density and the soil type and several other factors are there.
Yeah.
1 kilo is equal to how many pounds? 100 pounds, like you calculated in kg also. 1 cubic meter of soil. But bear in mind, this is enough to kill a person or to damage, the or create a terrible kind of
Yeah.
major injury even for that gentleman. Okay.
Okay.
Now we can create one more segment. Like if we are excavating, and on the other side we are scaffolding also, because that is quite common in construction industry. Somewhere you have excavated area, and on the other side you are scaffolding or you are erecting your scaffolding. So what are the rules actually? Because we are talking about safety measures, protective systems, control measures, in other words. So if you can remember, 1.5 times, 1.5 times. Like if depth
Uh,
is 20 feet, we erect our scaffolding 30 feet away. I repeat again, if depth of the trench is 20 feet deep, just an example, and you erect your scaffolding 30 feet away. I'm talking about scaffolding versus excavated areas like trenches or any other. Now, question is why? Why we need to put our scaffolding 1.5 times away actually from the edge of the excavation area? What is the logic behind? Like if depth is 10 feet, so we need to erect 20 feet away. My question is why?
Why is scaffolding 20 feet away?
Yeah, if trench is 10 feet or trench is 20 feet, so if trench is 20 feet, you erect your scaffolding 30 feet away. The question is why 30 feet?
Ah,
Why
ah,
not
ah.
20?
If
Like,
this scaffolding coming down like that, no one coming
yeah,
inside the trench.
yeah,
Hmm.
like this is excavated area 20 feet deep, and from this edge of
Ah,
the excavated area, how far you have to erect your scaffolding?
يبقى if scaffolding height 30 feet يبقى should away from the trench 40 feet.
Excellent. Okay, so you go in that way, but I'm talking about first of all, you need to observe the depth of the excavated area. If depth is 40 feet, you erect your scaffolding 60 feet away, 1.5 times. That means 150%.
1.5. Sorry.
1.5
1.5.
times actually.
آه.
Okay,
يبقى if 20 يبقى away 30. If 30 يبقى away 45.
excellent, 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 Masha.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, one more point is coming in my mind. If you are going to excavate, but unfortunately no drawings, the client is saying there are no drawings of that particular land or particular area. So, what are the ways to identify underground hazards? How we can identify underground hazards before even we start our project? These are the common sense elements to discuss actually.
I think if you speak about the hazard start after 1.2 meter.
No, even before that, sometime you never know what is inside actually, because it's a soil. Even you never know what is inside after 1 feet deep. If the 1 feet depth is there, my question is how we gonna identify underground hazards? What tools we gonna use, or what procedure we have to follow, to identify underground hazards before starting our excavation process actually? That's my question.
I don't know.
So, have you ever heard the words we call it metal detectors, cable detectors, or we have another way like hand digging actually. If energy power lines or some other elements are involved, then of course isolation and plenty of other procedures we need to follow.